Yeah, go ahead, fire away. I've got so much to talk about. Wouldn't know where to start.
Give us a general recap of your trip and how things went from your perspective. Of your,
Yeah, I mean, you play 3 games in an environment like that. Obviously, the first game kind of puts you in a little different category in terms of the Power Five schools. We were the only Power Five school to not win the first game, and we ran into a good coastal team, kind of a home team deal. Drew the short straw on that one, not to make any excuses, and they kicked our butts. We had a lot of film to look at on how not to play, and very little film on how to play properly, and we had a lot of breakdowns. And the 3 words that are in our facility over there are there for a reason: playing hard, playing smart, and playing together. Typically lead. If you can check 2 of those 3 boxes, you're going to be in a lot of games. And I thought we had glimpses in various parts of that game. I thought we started off the game playing pretty hard. The first part of the game, we played really hard. We didn't play together, didn't share the ball very well, and made it hard on ourselves offensively. And then second half, we played smarter and we played more together, but we didn't play hard enough. So kind of a perfect storm on how not to complete a game, and we got what we deserved in the first one. We bounced back really well, I thought, in the next game against Ohio. And that one, we watched a bunch of film and how to play, and it was a little different animal in terms of environment in the gym and athleticism and different things that we faced, but it was a good win for us. And then the last game, I thought a game that we should have won, but we didn't. We kind of reverted back to game 1 again, and it's a little bit frustrating with the number of turnovers, 20 turnovers. I thought we forced the issue a lot of times. We can't have 7 and 5 turnovers, our starting 3 and 2. And there was some clips on how to play the right way, and we did, and we would get a little 6 or 8 point lead. Same thing all the way back to game 1 at Nevada. I mean, it's all right before our eyes. When we play the game the right way, we're pretty good, and when we don't, we're subpar. And to give them credit, I'll tell you one thing: we had some really poor defensive coverage. Our zone had some struggles to it. And when we were really bad defensively, the irony was that Tulane missed shots, and then our defense got pretty good, and they hit tough shots. And then we obviously struggled going down the stretch in that game. So, frustrating, certainly, fixable, definitely, and we're just going to get back at it. That's all we can do.
do you think Timmy, he had a tough game, obviously with turnovers, but do you think he's trying to put too much on his shoulders, just as being the guy kind of this year, and maybe he forces things too much?
Well, I'm going to keep a lot of those personal things between ourselves. We had a nice little meeting yesterday. There's a lot of variables at work. I mean, he sprained his ankle early in that game, and you can make health issue excuses. At the end of the day, he's got to be better. He knows it on both ends of the floor. But it's hard to get too crazy about it when he's probably not at full speed. But I guess the argument to that is if you're hurt, you shouldn't probably press as much. So, I mean, to answer your question, you watch the game, you can see some stuff. Certainly a number of people are coming to keep him from doing his thing. And we are going to need him to be a facilitator and probably mature in his game and take it to a level that he's never been to. I would challenge him to try to get a triple-double because we don't need him to be our leading scorer every time, and I think this is kind of new territory for him to be in, so it's all part of a learning process. I've got to learn some stuff about our team. Timmy's got to learn to navigate his way with our team. Everybody else, there's not a person on our team or our staff that can improve something. So I think, 6 games into a season, this is the time to sit down and start talking about some data that you have, and here's a track record, and here's a correlation of when we're good and when we're not good. But you can't have 10 assists and 21 turnovers on the year. That's just not if you want to win. So we'll get there, and it's it's a learning experience, and I don't think he's going to fight us on it, and so we got to be much better.
Just to follow up on that, Timmy was really good last year when you had him in that high post role. Was that maybe just he had more trust in the scorers around him? Is that a possible theory?
No, I mean, well, you're talking about against the zone. That's one of our zone offenses, and we saw that a lot during Tulane. The Tulane game was kind of a matchup zone similar to what Oregon plays, and there's some holes in the high post, without a doubt. And it takes a little bit of experience, I think. It's not just a Timmy thing. He's been in the high post, but we had some plays where he caught the ball in the high post, and it's kind of hard to tell him to pass it when we had both of our guards almost run into each other at the top of the circle thinking that they had to move. When we get the ball in the high post, the guards have to flatten out and sprace the floor. And so it was kind of a comedy of errors, a perfect storm. He's a good high post player, and he's got to understand that it can't be about going in there and trying to score. That's remember Tyler Rawson was really good in the high post. And the last time we played Washington, we didn't have Timmy against that zone. So we haven't got a real good sample size with what he can do in there. But you need high post players, and I like his ability to make plays in there. We just haven't experienced as a whole, I think, enough reps.
So if you can put it in a tidy package for us, when things are going well, what's happening, and when things are going wrong, what's happening?
Well, I think we're really dialed in defensive transition. Whether we make it or miss it, we're committed to getting our butts back and having somebody call out the ball and having everybody else load and be down in a stance and put a fire out. We talk about the first 8 seconds of a shot clock. And there were some brain farts, numerous brain farts. And when we open up the floodgates and let teams get open looks, drive to the hole, those types of things were not very good. So it kind of starts there. We've been dang good at the middle third of the shot clock. Statistically, it's crazy. It's like 0.45 points of possession if somebody tries to shoot in the middle third. It's the early part of it, and then I think it's finishing off a possession. And the ending of possessions where we're really getting killed is dribble penetration. And you can call it whatever you want. It's just you got to outlast some people, and they'll wind you up a little bit. Maybe your legs are a little tired from being in a stance, and you have to be able to start a possession really well defensively, guard the action that's in the middle of it, and then finish it off with a little more sense of urgency. So that's the defensive side of it. I think from an offensive point of view, there'll be times when we execute, we run exactly what we're trying to run, we screen when a screen's called for, and we make the right play. We've been using this little statement, a phrase, make the play that the game presents to you, without trying to manufacture something crazy. And we do some crazy stuff, and we don't shoot it when we're open. There's plenty of those too. So it's not just about not taking a bad shot. It's about taking a shot when it's a good shot. We'll fake ourselves covered a number of times. So, but when we get clicking and we share it and we move the ball and we have people that penetrate and punch the paint a little bit, look for somebody else, we're pretty dang good. So I guess to sum it all up, when we play collectively, when we try to play together on both ends of the ball and are really connected and committed to each other, we're pretty dang good. The minute we take a flyer and somebody tries to create something, whether they're gambling on defense or trying to do something out of character on offense, we become pretty average.
It's early in the week, but have you got a book on UC Davis at this point?
Yeah. I mean, I watched a couple games this morning. Jim Les does a good job. That's a team we've played a few times here recently. They they were right in a, it was a tie game at Portland with 4 minutes to go, and they end up losing by 10. So it wasn't, when you look at the score, it wasn't a fair assessment of the game, but they really execute as well as anybody we've played. Offensively, they're all connected and they know what it is they're trying to run. They screen really well. They cut really hard. All the things you kind of are envious of in terms of watching a good offensive clinic. So we're going to have to be dialed in that way. And they've got a deep team. They have a number of guys on their stat sheet that play 22 minutes a game. It's not like some teams come in here with 4 or 5 heavy minute guys and you think you're going to run them out of the building because they can't hold up. I don't think that's going to be the case either. So they got a heck of a post player. I can't remember, new something, or number 13 is their leading scorer, and he's a load down in the post and does a really good job. So they got some good shooters around him and a little kind of a Justin Bibbins water bug point guard, and it's going to be a tough out.
Not to beat up on your best players, but just can you talk about Booth? He seems to be up. When he's up, he's really up and has some great games. And he's also had a couple of really tough games, kind of inconsistent. Is it kind of like when his shot's falling, he's better than when he's not, and then he just kind of disappears a little bit?
And I'm always hesitant again.
Okay. Don't wanna...
It's hard for me to sit up here and talk about individual players. A lot of that stuff's kind of within you watch it, you can write about it, whatever you see. We're trying to figure some things out. At the end of the day, we've got some 19-year-old kids, and there's not a lot of perfection at 19 in a lot of ways. And I think we're all in a new category. You've moved up the scouting report a little bit. You feel a little more pressure. At the end of the day, Booth just needs to play really hard. And it's not just a Booth thing, it's a Utah thing. If guys are worried about production or points or anything else like that, it's oftentimes solved when you just go out and play with a little bit of reckless abandon. And that's what we need from a lot of our guys. I think there's a little bit of paralysis by analysis. I think there's a little bit of youth. Sometimes it's hard. You guys know as well as anybody that, it's when you're young, it's a little harder to be consistent. I said that when we first had our first media days here in practice, the 6 weeks in the summer. One guy would have a great day and then no show the next day. And, it's just a bunch of ebb and flow with young players. And I know there's a kind of a cycle here with Booth, but it's not unusual. It's not like, oh my gosh, this is, he's got some type of disease of being consistent. It's part of being young. And we'll address some stuff in a film session today, give him a few pointers on what to think about, find out from him, hey, what is it? What can we do for you to make you more successful, more productive? What is it you really like to do? What do you need to stay away from? That's all we can do is you watch film and the film never lies. And again, life experience is the best way to mature and to try to put some of those fires out. That's just a natural thing. You have to have reps and you have to have minutes, and then you start having these little aha moments, and hopefully you grow and mature. And that's one of the things we're dealing with this young team that we're all talking about. So it's fun to coach them. I don't think anybody's fighting us, and we just got to keep trudging forward and not getting too high and too low.
Also, just on rebounding, do you think you're improving on that? Offensive rebounding has been a bit of an issue for you. I mean, the other team you have offensive rebounding, but is that something that you guys think you're kind of figuring out a little bit now?
Well, I don't think you ever feel comfortable that you've got rebounding figured out. I mean, the reality at Myrtle Beach was we played 3 mid-major programs, and we were bigger than all of them. And we didn't play Baylor, we didn't play Villanova, we didn't play some of those Power 5 schools, and they look a little different than those other teams walking through the airport. And there's a little more challenge on the glass. So I'm a long ways away from saying we've arrived with anything rebounding. That's going to always be a point for us. We missed a number of blockouts. I think we out-rebounded most of the teams in the tournament, but we probably should have. So, I've always said that rebound is the exclamation point on the end of a defensive possession. You can do a lot of things right and get them to miss. But if you can't get that dang rebound, you become pretty average. And so that's always going to be a focal point for us, is to make sure we're gang rebounding. You're kind of on your A game today.
You decided on Brandon Wenzel, if he's going to redshirt, you know?
We're going to actually meet at noon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's had some back issues, and he's on some antibiotics, so it really hasn't been a point of discussion up to this point because he's been kind of wounded. But we're going to sit down and visit here when we're done. Come up with the plan. Yeah. Yeah, same to you. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.